Welcome back to the Daily Crypto Deep Dive. Today we are talking Do Kwon and Terra USD. To understand why Do Kwon was sentenced to 15 years in prison, you have to understand not just Terra, but the moment in crypto history that allowed Terra to exist, grow, and ultimately collapse the way it did. Terra was not born in a vacuum. It emerged at a time when crypto believed it was not merely an alternative asset class, but a complete replacement for the existing financial system. Bitcoin had proven that money could exist without governments. Ethereum had proven that finance could exist without banks. The next logical step, many believed, was to replace fiat currency itself, and stablecoins were supposed to be the bridge between ideology and mass adoption. At the time, stablecoins were already enormous. Tether dominated liquidity, but faced constant criticism over transparency and reserves. USDC was growing rapidly, but was openly tied to banks and regulators. For the most ideological parts of crypto, both were seen as compromises. They worked, but they violated the core belief that money should be trustless and decentralized. That dissatisfaction created the perfect conditions for Terra to thrive. Do Kwon co-founded Terraform Labs in 2018 with a worldview that matched the moment. He believed money should be native to the internet, governed by code, and free from institutional control. He wasn't subtle about it. He openly mocked regulators, dismissed critics, and cultivated an image of unshakable confidence. In the crypto culture of the time, this wasn't seen as arrogance, it was seen as conviction. Aggression was interpreted as vision. Certainty was mistaken for brilliance. Terra's pitch was elegant and deeply dangerous at the same time. Instead of backing a stablecoin with dollars in a bank account, Terra USD would be backed by incentives. Its $1 peg would be maintained algorithmically through its relationship with a second token called Luna. If UST traded above $1, arbitrageurs could burn Luna to mint new UST and sell it, pushing the price back down. If UST traded below $1, users could burn UST to mint Luna, reducing UST supply and theoretically pushing the price back up. No banks, no custodians, no reserves, just incentives and market behavior. The system relied on a single assumption, that Luna would always retain sufficient value and liquidity to absorb shocks. As long as that assumption held, the mechanism appeared sound. In its early stages, Terra worked. It gained traction in South Korea through payments integrations that gave it legitimacy beyond speculation. Merchants accepted Terra-based stablecoins. Users earned rewards. The ecosystem felt real. Luna's price climbed steadily, reinforcing belief in the system. As Luna rose, Terra appeared more stable. Stability fed confidence, and confidence fed price. That feedback loop became the foundation of Terra's credibility. But Terra's true explosion didn't come from payments. It came from yield. Anchor Protocol launched as the flagship application on Terra, offering nearly 20% annual yield on UST deposits. Not volatile yield, not market-based yield, stable yield on a stablecoin. In a world where banks paid next to nothing, Anchor was irresistible. It was marketed as a decentralized savings account. Park your UST, earn predictable returns, and avoid traditional finance entirely. Billions of dollars flowed in. Retail investors piled in. Funds allocated capital. Influencers promoted Anchor relentlessly. Terra became one of the largest ecosystems in crypto almost overnight. What most participants didn't fully confront was where that yield came from. Anchor's returns were not driven by borrowing demand. They were subsidized. Terraform Labs regularly topped up Anchor's yield reserve to maintain the headline rate. This information was technically public, but it was inconvenient, and inconvenient truths rarely gain traction during bull markets. When balances rise month after month, questions feel unnecessary. This was the moment Terra crossed from innovation into fragility. The entire system depended on continued confidence and ongoing inflows. As long as money entered the system, UST demand stayed high, Luna stayed valuable, and the peg held. But there was no hard floor, no lender of last resort, no collateral pool large enough to survive a true panic. The stability was psychological as much as mechanical. Warnings existed. Analysts pointed out that algorithmic stablecoins had failed before. They warned about reflexivity, death spirals, and bank-run dynamics. But those warnings were dismissed. Some critics were publicly mocked by Do Kwon himself. In a rising market, skepticism feels like sabotage. By early 2022, the environment changed. Inflation surged. Central banks tightened policy. Liquidity dried up. Risk appetite collapsed. Capital flowed out of speculative assets. For the first time, Terra faced sustained outflows instead of inflows. Anchor deposits began to fall. Large holders started withdrawing UST. The peg came under pressure. At first, the system absorbed it. Arbitrage kicked in. Luna supply expanded. But the scale quickly overwhelmed the mechanism. As UST dipped below $1, redemptions accelerated. Each redemption minted more Luna. As Luna flooded the market, its price collapsed. As Luna collapsed, confidence evaporated. That loss of confidence triggered even more redemptions. The feedback loop reversed violently. Within days, Luna fell from over $100 to effectively zero. UST traded at pennies. Tens of billions of dollars vanished. Portfolios were wiped out. Lives were ruined. Panic spread across crypto markets. Terra was not just a failure. It was a shockwave. The damage didn't stop with Terra itself. Funds that were heavily exposed collapsed. Three Arrows capital imploded. Lenders froze withdrawals. Trust evaporated. Terra became the first domino in a cascade that reshaped the entire crypto industry. Throughout the collapse, Do Kwon remained publicly defiant. He tweeted confidence. He dismissed critics. He promised recovery plans. But behind the scenes, the system was unrecoverable. Emergency measures came too late. The collapse was irreversible. Investigations followed quickly. Regulators examined Terraform Labs' claims. Evidence emerged suggesting that the peg had been defended previously using external capital, contradicting public claims that the system was fully algorithmic and decentralized. That distinction became legally crucial. Once decentralization is claimed but discretion is exercised, intent comes into question. Do Kwon fled, arrest warrants were issued, extradition battles followed. The once celebrated founder became a global symbol of crypto excess. Years later, the legal process concluded. Do Kwon was sentenced to 15 years in prison for fraud related to the TerraUSD collapse. The court did not view Terra as a failed experiment. It viewed it as a system that misled investors about stability, sustainability, and risk. That sentence matters far beyond one individual. Terra permanently altered how regulators view stablecoins. Central banks hardened their stance. India's recent warnings make sense in this context. To policymakers, Terra validated their worst fears. That privately issued digital money can behave like an unregulated bank without safeguards. For builders, Terra rewrote the rules. Yield must be explained. Reserves must be provable. Transparency is no longer optional. Complexity is no defense. For investors, Terra remains a permanent lesson. High returns often hide structural risk. Stability must be engineered, not promised. And confidence is not a substitute for fundamentals. What made Terra especially dangerous was not just its design, but the moment it scaled. Crypto was flush with capital. Risk was mispriced. Yield was scarce in traditional finance. Terra didn't feel reckless. It felt inevitable. It sold certainty in an uncertain world. When people believe something is dependable, they stop stress testing assumptions. They build lives around it. That is why the collapse was so devastating. Terra also exposed a deeper cultural flaw within crypto at the time. Criticism was treated as weakness. Skepticism was dismissed as negativity. Warning signs were drowned out by belief. When belief systems harden, they don't bend. They shatter. The collapse revealed how interconnected crypto had become. Terra wasn't isolated. It was woven into collateral frameworks, leverage strategies, and balance sheets across the industry. When it fell, trust fell with it. Proof of reserves became a necessity. Self-custody surged. The industry entered a defensive posture that lasted years. The legal response followed inevitably. Courts do not judge ideology. They judge representations and harm. Terra's complexity worked against it. The more intricate the system, the harder it became to argue that risks were understood. The sentence was not just punishment, it was deterrence. That is why Terra still dominates regulatory conversations. It is shorthand for systemic risk in crypto form. It is cited in policy debates, referenced in enforcement actions, used as a warning by educators. And yet, Terra also clarified crypto's future. Scale demands responsibility. Financial systems must survive stress without belief alone. Transparency is not optional. These lessons were brutal, but necessary. Terra is now part of crypto's permanent history. A cautionary tale, a legal precedent, a dividing line between experimentation and accountability. Because the forces that created Terra still exist. The hunger for yield, the belief in code, the rejection of restraint. If those forces are not tempered, another Terra will eventually emerge under a different name. Crypto now has a choice. Learn from this chapter or repeat it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And as always, we will see you at the top.